Hello, today we're going to look at Leviticus 11 to 15. Now, it may be that you are about to read these, or it may be that you just have read those, but you're going to discover, or you will have discovered, that here we have a whole lot of laws about cleanness and uncleanness. Now, remember back to what we said in the very first video, the introductory one, about these three categories of unclean, clean, and holy. Now, what is holy can go into the sanctuary. The whole of Israel, sort of en masse by and large, is clean, but then certain people are unclean and are excluded from Israel for the duration of their uncleanness. I say excluded from Israel, excluded from the community, you know. Now, what can make you unclean? Remember that these two different things in our minds fit into the same category in the ancient mind. So you can become unclean by doing something bad, if you like, or you can become unclean by some physical deformity or ailment. Certain ones will make you unclean. And in the ancient mind, in the mind of the writer of Leviticus and his culture, these fall into the same category. And you'll remember that we earlier in the book, we saw the laws for making what is unclean clean, or for restoring somebody who has been unclean back into the community. So just to pick out two or three of those to draw your attention to some things that link with New Testament themes. You'll have read about leprosy. Now, it may well not be the disease we think of as leprosy, but skin diseases, certain skin diseases made somebody unclean, and there's a whole set of rituals, isn't there, for testing that uncleanness and then potentially for being restored. And you'll remember that, well, you'll have discovered that if you touch somebody who has leprosy, you are made unclean. But Jesus touches people with leprosy and is not made unclean, because with Jesus, the cleanness, the holiness flows outwards. The contamination doesn't come inwards. And you'll remember that after Jesus heals some of the lepers, he sends them away to go and fulfill the ritual with the priests that Leviticus prescribes. You'll also have read about menstruating women being unclean. I don't imagine this is a kind of misogynistic sort of thing. This is just the categories in which they thought. A woman who menstruated, a man who had nocturnal emission, both of those things would make you unclean. But that we remember the woman from the Gospels who'd been bleeding for 12 years, and that meant she was ritually unclean for 12 years and wasn't able, she was in this category and wasn't able to operate within normal society. And so when Jesus heals her, he's not just healing her body, but he's healing her socially as well. You'll have read about the food laws, various foods that are or aren't unclean. Don't think in categories of health and safety. This isn't to do with certain foods being more dangerous because of, more likely food poisoning or anything. That's not the sort of thinking that underlies Deuteronomy. But when you read the food laws, or as you reflect on them, if you've already read them, remember the story of Peter and Cornelius. Remember Peter being on the roof and seeing all those unclean foods coming down, and being, the voice that says, help yourself, Peter. And he says, wouldn't dream of eating these unclean things. I've never eaten something that was unclean. And God says to him, who are you to call unclean what I have called clean? And from that he knows that he is now to go and offer the gospel to non-Jews. So just some of the important things that we discover in Leviticus here, which have resonances in the Gospels. And it's just the broader point, I suppose, is that we really don't understand the Gospels properly unless we understand our Old Testaments properly. And that's what you're doing. You're reading your Old Testament, maybe for the 100th time, maybe for the first time. And I hope and I pray that all sorts of things will be becoming clear to you, which will help you to understand who Jesus is and what he says. So keep going. I know it's tough, but keep going. I'll see you soon.